Everyone loves a good haunted house story, right? Unless you're currently living in a haunted house, then it's probably a little too close to home. 'Tis I, your ghostly realtor James, and I've returned from the bowels of the underworld to bring you 10 haunted dwellings and share the creepy stories surrounding them. So without further ado, these are the top 10 real haunted houses hiding demonic entities. And starting off the list, we have Myrtle's Plantation in Louisiana. Built by General David Bradford, the grounds of this former plantation are said to be haunted till this very day. People tell stories about ghost sightings and strange events that happened there. The house was built in the 18th century and has a history of different owners. As you can probably imagine, some pretty terrible things happened here, and some folks claim they've seen ghosts of unfortunate souls who met their end on the property wandering around the grounds. Not only that, but it's said that the structure was built over a Native American burial ground. Classic horror type trope there. There's a story about two youngsters who died from poisoning, and their spirits are said to show up in photographs taken within the house. People also say they hear footsteps, doors opening and closing, and even voices when no one is around. The house has been investigated by paranormal experts, and some say they've recorded unusual sounds and seen things that they can't explain. Visitors and workers at the plantation have reported feeling a cold breeze and seeing apparitions and feeling like they're being watched. The Winchester House. In San Jose, California stands the Winchester House. This has to be one of the strangest homes in the entire world, perhaps even one of the strangest buildings, period. Most of the construction on the mansion was ordered by Sarah Winchester, the widow of William Wirt Winchester, whose father invented the Winchester rifle. Sarah was devastated by the loss of her husband and consulted a psychic who told her that she and her family were cursed by the spirits of those who had lost their lives at the hands of Winchester rifles. Sarah believed that the only way to appease those spirits would be to constantly expand on the Winchester mansion, and for 38 years she resided there, with construction happening day in and day out. As to why an angry ghost would be appeased by a mansion having new bits added to it constantly is still a mystery to me, but that's what she believed, so that's what she did. And the result is this incredibly bizarre home with a series of pointless rooms, stairs that just lead to nowhere. It's almost like some AI program was tasked with constructing a mansion without understanding the purpose of one. I'd love to check the place out because that just sounds so darn strange. Raynham Hall. This massive-sized country house in Norfolk, England, has a very famous ghostly image associated with it. This one right here. This is said to be one of the most convincing ghost photographs of all time. Taken in 1936, supposedly a snapshot of the Brown Lady, a female ghost in a brown dress that is said to roam the property. The Brown Lady is the ghost of Lady Dorothy Walpole, who apparently had an affair, and upon finding out, her husband locked her in a chamber in the mansion where she was neglected and mistreated, eventually passing away in 1726 from smallpox. Many visitors of the building still claim to have run-ins with the ghostly figure of the Brown Lady till this very day. Some just hear her footsteps as she ascends the stairs, others experience unexplained drops in temperature, and some even claim to see her full-bodied apparition. Next on the list is what is said to be the most haunted place in India, Banghat Fort in Rajasthan. Visitors say that strange things happen there, like unexplained noises, eerie voices, and even sightings of shadowy figures. The story goes that a curse was placed on the fort, which led to its downfall. Locals believe that no one who goes there at night makes it out alive. This belief is actually so prevalent that the fort is actually completely off limits at night. It's said that the place becomes unusually silent at night. Even the Archaeological Survey of India has put up a sign advising against entering the fort after sunset. And legends say that a magician fell in love with a princess and cursed the fort when she rejected him. Number 6, Willow's Weep. This house was built in Indiana in the 19th century and is said to be one of the most evil haunted houses in the USA. So, first of all, when you look at the house from overhead, it's shaped like an upside down cross. like depending on what side you're looking at it, of course, but where the front door is, it's an upside down cross. So that's definitely ominous. The place has been featured in documentaries, one of which is narrated by William Shatner, and paranormal investigators flocked to the house to try and interact with the malicious spirits that are rumored to reside there. And I do mean malicious. This home has a very dark history with many gruesome deaths having taken place within its walls. Next up, we have the Fairmont Hotel McDonald in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. So yeah, it's a hotel, not a house, but I had to throw this one on here because I think we all need a change from your standard ghosts and demons in human form, and this place is haunted by a horse. An undead horse, of course, so I feel no remorse in talking about this ghostly force. Who wants to see me do an entire list in rhyme? Nobody, hopefully. That's what I really hope. That would be an actual nightmare for me to try and script, and probably for you as well. Anyway, the story goes that in 1914, as this hotel was being built, one of the workers' horses dropped dead, and now the spirit of this steed gallops through the hallways at night. Many guests claim to hear the sounds of hooves trotting down the hallway, especially on the 8th floor. It's also often heard in the basement. But this ghost horse isn't the only source of paranormal activity in the hotel. It's also said to be the spirit of a sailor on the property. Whatever, yawn. But one creepy thing that staff report is occasionally receiving calls from certain rooms on the 6th floor from guests making requests. But when they quest up to the room, they're distressed to find that there's nobody there. The room is empty. Staying in Canada for a bit, we have the Mar residence in Saskatoon. This place was built in the late 1800s and has a history tied to the Northwest Resistance. The house has changed hands over the years, and there are stories of ghostly happenings. People claim to have seen apparitions and felt strange cold spots in areas. There's a tale about a soldier who died in the house during the Resistance, and his spirit is said to still linger there. Some visitors have also reported hearing footsteps and doors creaking on their own, whispers when no one's around. The house has been looked into by ghost hunters who claim to have picked up on eerie energy and unexplained phenomena going on there, and workers and guests have shared experiences of feeling watched or sensing some sort of presence there. Ghost stuff, you know? Number 3, we have the Moore family house in Villisca, Iowa, also known as the Villisca Axe Moida House. On a dark night in 1912, June 9th to be exact, an entire family of 6, the Moore family, as well as 2 guests, were found dead, with axe wounds to their heads. There were a couple of suspects, but the crime was never officially solved, so it's said that the spirits of the people who lost their lives on that night now roam the property. There are ghost tours of the place now, and there are stories of people hearing the disembodied voices of the young ones of the Moore family. Ladders have been seen moving on their own, as well as other objects, and some have apparently captured strange stuff in video and audio recordings. This place even allows overnight visits. That's something I gotta try. The Woodchester Mansion. This Gothic mansion in Nimsfield, Gloucestershire, England, has stood abandoned since the mid-1870s, and its construction was never actually completed. It's believed to be haunted due to numerous reports of paranormal activity. People claim to have experienced strange occurrences, like unexplained footsteps and your standard ghost stuff. Some visitors have also reported seeing shadowy figures moving throughout the corridors, while others claim to have heard disembodied voices echoing from the empty rooms. It's said the construction was halted after the sudden death of the architect's son, and the mansion was just left unfinished. Aside from the spirits that may or may not rest there, the Woodchester Mansion is home to a rare species of bat called horseshoe bats that roost in the attic in the summer months, and these bats have been extensively studied since 1959, so that's pretty cool. And taking first place is the Sultan's Palace in New Orleans. This luxurious home was built in 1836 and was purchased by a Turkish man claiming to be a sultan, and as soon as this man moved into the French Quarter home, things got completely out of hand. There were constant parties, loud music was always heard, he had a harem of women that would... But as to exactly what was going on in that house, there were only rumors, and some of them are pretty dark, some of them are just kind of general, oh, there's shenanigans going in there. There's a lot of versions of this story, but no local had ever been invited inside. One morning, though, after a very stormy night, a man was walking down the streets of the French Quarter and noticed red liquid trickling down the steps from the Sultan's palace. palace. It was streaming like a small river, running through the cracks in the cobblestone. The man ran to the police, and what they discovered inside the home was a complete massacre. There was immediately this overwhelming metallic scent in the air from all that red stuff, and there were bodies everywhere. Many of them had been dismembered. Limbs were scattered around. They continued through the house only to find more and more bodies until they made their way out to the courtyard. Soil was heavy and muddy from the rain the night before, and sticking out from it was a hand with its fingers spread as if desperately reaching for help. It was the hand of the Sultan. He'd been buried alive. So, who was it that committed this horrific act? Some said that the Sultan wasn't really the Sultan after all. He was the Sultan's brother and made off with all of his brother's women, so his brother hired a group of mercenaries to dispose of him. But until this day, it's still a mystery. With all that said, I've been your host, James, and I'll catch you, yes you specifically, in the next video.